Hello, this is the latest segment of Get to Know Your District here on Morning Kickaround, and very honored to be welcoming Mitch Baruchowitz, the principal owner of Westchester SC, playing their first season in USL League One. We met briefly in Detroit for Open Cup in the spring. Great to see you again, sir. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It was great meeting you there. This first year has been quite the adventure, and visiting and traveling with the team and really getting to know the other teams, the other owners, players on other teams, and just seeing the environments has been an incredible journey. And meeting you was great as well. What an environment in Detroit behind the goals, the good food situation.
There you go. Mitch, I have not met you in person.
Sure.
Nice to make your acquaintance here on Morning Kick Around down here in Northern Virginia. Don't get to Detroit enough. I guess I need to get to Detroit, Rob. Is that what we're okay? That's what we're talking about. Maybe I need to get to Westchester.
Richmond's a great environment too, by the way. I haven't been to Loudon yet, but Richmond, heck of an environment. I had a great time with Rob Ucrop.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's a legend in Richmond. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's great. Obviously, Richmond is. We can talk about this. I want to talk about the league. I want to talk. So
Sure.
I don't want to make it too complicated. And we had just got done talking about Atletico Dallas getting their stadium maybe together as they want to go into the USL Championship there in North Texas. We last week had a discussion about some of these USL 2 teams and NPSL teams that are driving big attendance numbers. Could they go pro? You are living the journey here, starting a professional soccer team in America. So I guess my first question is why? Why did you want to do this?
That's a great question. And to this day, I don't have like one answer. I think what happened is I had started looking at sports investments in my career. I was running a fund. I still run this fund called Merida Capital. And I was looking for things. I'm always looking for interesting thematic ideas to really grab onto. And I became so I'm going to go a little bit back, because if you understand the mindset, it kind of leads to how Westchester is being run. And so I'll definitely draw the loop for you. But so it started, I was looking at sports investments, and NILs really seemed to me the most interesting thing in the sports landscape because of streaming and multiple platforms. You knew college football, you knew it's just too big of a money thing not to change based on NILs. And so I started looking at what would be business models that could radiate off of that original idea, right? NILs is going to change a lot. There's going to be a realignment, all this stuff. So I'm looking at just any sports. And I met someone called, his name's Andrew Petcash. He's like a prodigy when it comes to sports media and monetizing things on TV. And so we started looking at platforms that are changing based on viewership, and or like sports that are changing. And we really came across like, oh, the USL is kind of an interesting thing. It's on ESPN Plus. The Apple paywall for us didn't make a lot of sense for MLS. It makes great sense for money and owners. But from viewership, if it's all about building the funnel, and if you believe that bigger funnel and higher volume leads to more revenue down the road, then the Apple TV deal, it's not clear that the long-term greedy idea works. The short-term definitely works, right? You get money every year. So we started looking, and we started getting decks from soccer teams. And so I looked at the Central Valley Fuego. I saw the San Jose Quakes. I saw some other decks from USL 1 teams, and I started saying, it's pretty interesting. Okay, maybe grab one of these California teams that looks like they need money, move them east. I saw AV Alta's deck, and I think David Hart and John Smeltzer have done a great job there. So it's a better thing that I didn't invest in that probably, because Westchester wouldn't exist. But I ended up eventually seeing a deck from a guy that was called 212 FC. And his name's Danny Decker. He's my co-founder. And now Westchester is 914. So, he's from the Netherlands and he spent some time here. But I saw the deck, and what I saw was, okay, you can just go to the USL and actually negotiate directly. Like, you don't have to buy a team. This isn't like a limited, finite landscape. And when I saw that, I started looking much deeper into the USL. And as someone who grew up on Long Island, I knew about the Rough Riders and the A-League and, and some of the other iterations of the US pro soccer other than the MLS. But it didn't occur to me how fragmented it was. And I didn't realize how much the USL had progressed in the last 5 or 6 years. And when I started to look in, I said, this is a pretty interesting opportunity. So the why was Westchester is a soccer crazy place. Every kindergarten, I think 95% of kindergartners play in that like little youth rec. And then the funnel gets smaller over time. but there's more than 5,000 people in this region paying for what everyone talks about, pay to play in elite academies. So you're talking about $20-30 million of elite spend, another 20 million of rec spend. You're talking about a place that spends like $70 million a year on youth soccer, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the market was there, and always. So the biggest thing, and this is going to sound a little corny, but I hope not to you guys, because when you think of your two local teams, Detroit's built on this passion, this local passion. So you get that. I look around Westchester, and it was always about beautiful communities that were adjacent to each other and were kind of rivals. Like, who's the best community in Westchester? Who has the best schools? And the football teams. I'm in Rye. Ryan Harrison is one of the best rivalries on ESPN, like in high school, and 15,000 people come to the high school football game in towns that don't have more than like 10,000 people, right? So these are big rivalries, but it never felt like anything was unifying Westchester. And in soccer, it felt like everyone plays it. There's a pickup game on every field in the summer nights, whether it's adults. And it just felt like, man, it would be amazing if one thing from a sporting perspective could unify. Everyone in Westchester complains, I have to go to New York City. I have to go to MetLife Stadium to watch football. City Field's kind of a hassle. Yankee Stadium is a mess getting to. It just felt like nothing's easy. And if you could create something that's convenient and affordable and community focused, the base is here. And 10 years from now, it feels like it would unify and create this imagery of people to rally around. And I just felt like if I could do it the right way, if I could rally the right people around me to do it the right way, it would be the most incredible thing ever. So, in a jaded, by the way, in a landscape, in the shadow of New York City, in a jaded place where everyone, so that also that juxtaposition of big city swagger, but trying to do something grassroots in the shadow of it.
Yeah.
It's a challenge, like, what are we here on earth to do? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're about 3-4 months into your maiden season there in Westchester. Yeah. So for those not familiar with the area, Westchester is a suburban region outside of the city, correct?
It's the northern, when you leave the 5 boroughs of Manhattan, of New York City, the first thing you hit is Westchester County. So where I sit, our players practice 12 miles from like Midtown Manhattan.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I mean, we're closer than the Red Bulls are, way closer to New York City than the Red Bulls. And NYCFC obviously is in the 5 boroughs, so that counts, New York City.
Right.
So far here, just a couple months in, you've had probably half a dozen to a dozen home games. Like, have you seen the seeds of you're trying to unify and have something for the entire community of Westchester to rally around? Is there seeds of that vision coming to the fore yet?
That's, by the way, an amazing question that you should ask everyone, because you see it in different gradations as you start. So you have a fan fest. We launched very quickly. I think it's important to go a little bit into how quickly we did not speak to the USL in any way, shape, or form until November of 2023, right? And they told us there's an 18-month ramp from when you start building it, and you should think about 26, maybe even 27. And I showed them. So by March, I had an academy under contract to acquire. And we had a stadium deal with Mount Vernon because there was a brand new stadium that had been built here. Luckily, if without that stadium, there's no chance we're on the field this year. So because we launched so quickly, the awareness was like, are you a youth club? Or, people in New York people everywhere are busy. And in these lives with social media and stuff. So no one knew what we were. And so it took 8 months to really even get through to just basic level soccer, youth soccer. We're a professional team that's coming. But no schedule, no players, you've got nothing to show people. So the level of investment from the community was slow and halting at first, I would say. So we really didn't launch till November or December of 24. So you have a 4-month ramp,
right,
to get everyone aware. And I can't emphasize enough that in a population dense, you think, there's 500 kids playing soccer in 20 different towns everywhere. Yeah, but they have to invite you on. You can't just show up. If you show up and start doing guerrilla marketing, it's a good way to annoy the community, right? And we've gotten some calls about flyers on windshields. We're doing some old school stuff to really build awareness in a unique way. But what I would say is the first game we had, the Jägermeister game, was our first home game. Actually, technically, we played the New York Pan Cyprian Freedoms in the U.S. Open Cup at home. 30 degrees, raining, and we still had 2,500 people, and it felt like, okay, this is good. It was a Wednesday night, not a great time for your first game. You have a week ahead of time where you can advertise. So we were like, okay, there's seeds. People were excited. We sold a ton of merch that night though. The next day, and we'd done pretty well online. Like we have a good, we have these retro things, and we're trying to be good with the merch, but we want our jerseys, which one of them is behind me, to be very simple and classic. Okay. There's a pattern in them, and we have the golden apple on the sleeve. Like we try to do little throwouts because the golden apple is Westchester's nickname. But so what really felt, and I can't say this more genuinely. This last Saturday, this game we played, first of all, great game against One Knox, was the first time where I really felt it was the first night game that was on the schedule. And 4:00 games are tough. Like in this area, it might be population dense, but you may have to travel an hour with your child for soccer. So we lost all the academy and all the travel people because it's very hard to have a 4:00 game, and you're running around all day, and then it's like, oh, let's go sit in 80 degrees and watch soccer. So I would say that this was the first time where we had it felt like we're onto something now. This felt sustainable and exciting. We had a band from Denzel Washington School of Arts. Denzel Washington's originally from Mount Vernon, where our stadium is. So they came out, they played before the game. They played in the stands with our supporters group. The supporters group is growing like 20% every week now. So it felt like a real environment. And the thing that was most exciting is the people over the last 2 or 3 home games. We've only had 4. So this 4th home game, a lot of people were walking in that didn't have any gear on. And you would say, well, that's a bad thing, isn't it? No, it shows me that we're actually reaching people that haven't previously been in the stadium. And that, to me, seeing a few people stop me and recognize me because on Instagram, and I try to be really involved. I had a t-shirt gun that I was showing off before the game, and there was an Instagram about it. So they're like, we just want to thank you because this Westchester really needed this. And that, to me, is worth all the challenge and struggle. And the last 8 months have been tough on my hair, the gray and the balding, and on my, they say sports and health keeps you young, but you can get aged in this game too.
Yeah,
when I was speaking to Sean Mann during our U.S. Open Cup game, the years can get quick.
I met Sean Mann when he had a full head of dark hair. No, just kidding.
It's this light brown now. If he's going to hit just for men, he's got to go with the medium to light brown.
Yeah. Look, Mitch, that's all incredible stuff. We can obviously hear your enthusiasm with this, and the fact that you've ramped this up as fast as you have is incredible. I mean, as somebody who has been only on the sidelines as a talking head, as a radio host, as a soccer watcher, I am always a little trepidatious. I don't want to see clubs come and go. And I'm obviously rooting for you. I guess because we're going to lead into a conversation here in a couple of minutes on some news, I got to ask you about the ProRel part of this, because when you started looking at decks, I don't think ProRel was on the table. And now here USL is at least sketching out the possibility of bringing it in. What does that mean for Westchester SC potentially?
Yeah, it's amazing. So I am writing something right now that I hope to release on LinkedIn. In my previous industry, I used to take these I wouldn't say non-consensus views, but I like to flesh out the contours of what I think are important issues. And I think ProRel, I'm going to lay out a piece how ProRel will directly and indirectly begin to chip away at the pay-to-play system in the United States, and in fact, will probably end it. So I'm going to draw that logical loop. I'm obviously putting some pressure on myself because I've been only writing it in little pieces. But I'm putting public pressure on myself to get it done because I think it is the question everyone wants to know. It's what does ProRel really mean? And to me, it does a few things. Number one, everything I say with respect to the MLS and stuff, to me, the MLS is the ultimate risk-taking enterprise for people who believe in soccer in the United States. And so there shouldn't be any shade. They can all these things can live. And in fact, if you look at every other country, they live in 5 divisions, 6 divisions, right? The Wrexham story is probably the best example. But what makes those things sustainable in a place of 350 million people with a lot of migration and other things and foreign populations that are here that love soccer, and Americans who have grown to really love a game that it's 2.5 hours, it's a defined, It's become beautiful. It's not like the old like NASL, which is like aging stars. Like there is a lot of good soccer being played in the United States. So anything I say, it's not a shot at the MLS, even unintentionally, right? But Pro Rel brings the narrative storylines that United States fans of everything, of sports, love. Why do people want to watch like The Last Dance with Michael Jordan? They want to see the behind the scenes because it's an incredible narrative of a person who clearly could achieve great things, but also had a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, right? That narrative is what gets sports fans excited. Like, are people excited about a Columbus versus FC Cincinnati game in Wednesday in the middle of July? I don't know. But it seems to me like the TV numbers bear out, right? Apple paywalled it. Numbers aren't good from new subscriptions. Like the deal may make sense. So clearly there has to be some narrative storylines. And Pro Rel, there is nothing greater than jeopardy and advancement in any sport in the United States, right? You win the championship in the NBA, you got to do it the same way, the same thing again. But you don't have any jeopardy. So I think what you're going to get is you're going to get these teams like Westchester that have a hyper-local base of people. You're going to get academy systems that feed that hyper-local base. So a lot of the players, instead of traveling 3 hours playing an MLS next pro team, they're going to stay local. So you're going to get more hyper-local connection to the players. And then you can watch that player move up level by level. Mm-hmm. And then you get transfer fees. And then so things will start to change that change the economic calculus. But what Pro Rel really means to me is it brings jeopardy and it brings an incentive to every owner to advance his team, to have his team ready to play every year. Fill the roster with good players, which means better players, that it's like upstream swimmers become the best swimmers, right? Pro Rel will create this impetus, this race to create better systems, efficient systems, better academy systems, better curricula. So when I look at everything downstream, I'm not sure if this is what you were asking, Jason. So I'm just going through how I think of this.
Okay.
Pro Rel from a professional perspective means better soccer, more storylines, better narrative. I think more interest. I think there's an analysis that 35% of the people that aren't interested in soccer will be interested because of the jeopardy and advancement. I think there's a whole huge calculus, but most importantly is what it means it sets off a huge virtuous cycle of U.S. soccer to me.
Okay. That phrase is definitely one I want to be true. So I'm gonna be interested to read your piece, Mitch, because virtuous cycle is something I think we want to see happen in American soccer.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Your Westchester SC side next up against the aforementioned AV Alta, another home game for you. One last thing before we let you go. It's a long season ahead, all the way till October. The USL League One season goes. When you're sitting there reflecting back, what do you want to have had happen? What's that season one goal?
Well, right now, the part that no one can prepare you for is the results, right? The losses hurt. Especially if you've been following our results a little bit, we are we've been I think ahead in every game but the DCFC game where we tied. We tied with a great strike in the 79th minute. And for a few minutes there, Robert, it looked like we were gonna. It from 79th to 85th minute, it felt like you guys, were on your heels, and ultimately you guys pulled it out. You have a good team this year. Loudon obviously is doing great, but the goals to me are really like, first of all, winning the games we're ahead on because we are going to maybe break a record and drop points. So that's that aside. But the real goals is to the reason we rushed to do this is because we felt like to Jason's point, we felt Pro Rel was coming quicker than other people predicted because the USL seemed so intentional in their discussions with us about it. And by putting a Paul McDonough and a Lee O'Neill and a Jeremy Olimbaugh, three really competent people in charge of that effort, to me showed a direct intention. So my goals are to build the community in the way, because when you do it quickly, like we don't have what Hearts of Pine had, where you have 5 years and you can do a focus group on your jersey. It's amazing what Gabe and Kevin have done there. I mean, all the new owners have really done a good job. I think in League One, like the standard for the new teams has really been pretty high, which is great for us, right? We have, budding rivalries and stuff, but the real goal is to uphold our end of the bargain, right? To build a community, to harness the energy, the soccer energy in Westchester, and really be a good steward of the community for the USL, right? That's why I'm writing this piece. I think the story needs to be fleshed out about Pro Rel. It really needs to be explained what this could mean to U.S. soccer. And it's a little bit ambitious for me to do it as new, but I think actually someone with new eyes who's going through it and hasn't lived under like 12 or 15 years of like building and grinding away to build it. Because it feels like the USL is in a much different place than it was when, 3 or 4 years ago even. So when you look at that, like when we hear the stories of the old USL One, they've got, and you hear from like Greenville, like they were there at the beginning, what they went through to sustain. We don't have those challenges, so we can focus more on like building. And I think the goal is to really harness the soccer energy and community, make 20,000 of my closest friends who are going to join me 17 times a year, on a summer night to maybe have a beer, watch some great soccer, cheer, even cheer on the other teams. Like, it's good soccer. It's getting beautiful. Like the USL, I think people are shocked at how good the quality is. That's one thing I've heard from people who thought it was going to be like minor league. They are blown away by the quality of the soccer. So to me, building those, some hometown people like JC Obregon and Connor McGlynn and the Powder Brothers, like elevating the local elite, but also really harnessing the community and having more of those conversations about how Westchester needed this unifying force and how not traveling, 2 hours to watch any professional sport is a better thing. So that for me is the goal.
All very exciting stuff. And Mitch Baruchowitz, principal owner, Westchester SC, thank you for detailing the creation and the adventure of this first season. Thank you for sharing it with us here on Morning Kicker. On all the best moving forward.
Thanks a lot. We'll see you in July, Robert. End of July, we got you Jaeger again. So
yeah, definitely reach out before that, and we'll have to connect again.
Right.
We'll update you how this season is going.
Thanks for having me, guys. Really
Thanks,
appreciate
Mitch.
it.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Mitch.
thanks.
Yeah, and that brings us to the point. If you are watching this and you are a fan of a team, or you run a team, or you're creating a team, and you want us to detail it in a get to know your district or a big question type segment, reach out, morningkickaround@gmail.com. We want to be the boosters of American soccer, and giving a platform to teams like Westchester SC or a variety of the other ones that are emerging or maybe have a little bit of an establishment. morningkickaround@gmail.com. Do that and reach out. We'd love to talk to you. And if you're watching this and you haven't hit subscribe yet, do so now. We are just a few away from 2,500 subscribers. You want to take it up a notch? If you're already subscribed, become a member. MK Ultras is the place to be. You get access to the Discord, early access to videos, priority commenting, and so much more. Just hit that button below the window here. You can also follow on social media at MKickround. There you go, X, Instagram, and Blue Sky, and find us on your favorite podcast platform.